Early this year, I set out to do something pretty challenging. I wanted to shift perception on an extraordinary topic that had already over 70 years of research, opinion, and frankly, quite effective disinformation. I had the rare opportunity to present my ideas to an executive with the Department of Defense who worked in special access programs in an area called Watertown, also known as Area 51. That meeting led to multiple clandestine encounters across the United States, from desert airports to vacant buildings deep within Washington, D.C. From these exchanges, I learned three things. One, there are certain things that should never have been secret. Two, there are secrets that were justifiable at the time but should now be disclosed. And three, there are things that are so unimaginable that certain interests believe that they should never, ever be made public. After this, you might even agree.
Hello, I'm Tom DeLong, and thanks for joining us live today. This quote above me actually happened to me this past year. When I was young, I dreamt about playing a rock show in front of all of my neighbors. As a seventh grader, that seemed unattainable. I never expected to be so lucky as to have a band like Blink-182 in my life. It was something that was much more further out than a dream. It was something not even possible in any scenario that I can think of. When I signed my first major record deal, I took my first check, bought a desktop computer, so I could research the possibility of intelligent life in the universe. I'd stay up all night cataloging, archiving, and highlighting small pieces of data, thinking I could find a unified theory of sorts, something to make sense out of the many elusive and mysterious events that seem to have interacted with mankind for thousands of years, sometimes for good and sometimes not so much. My passion for the subject helped me envision a more interesting existence for us all, something more infinite and more exciting than the usual. I was a typical middle-class kid from suburbia, except I loved mystery. It was like I was on my own imaginary ride searching endlessly for an answer to all that is, as if there was such a thing. Now in adulthood, I've started to use my limited notoriety as a tool, a door opener to meet important people. I also did this while combining all of my entrepreneurial experience over the past 15 years into one company that could keep up with my racing mind. The result was a creative machine to help me discover, comprehend, and communicate large themes about the human race. I called it To the Stars. I created a company that can produce original science fiction stories that inspire, entertain, and galvanize thinking. You would be surprised to know how difficult it is for the major film studios to create progressive content that is relevant, modern, and just plain cool. I've met with all of them, and their hands are tied in many ways. I believe we're filling a major void in the content creation space. I sometimes call To the Stars a science fiction Disney, but for adults. Our projects are about dreams, the paranormal, consciousness, and even a historical fiction account behind the UFO phenomenon and our dealings with it. While the company got on its feet, Blink-182 was unraveling in the press. I was traveling around the country secretly for 18 months at the time. I was working my way through NASA, the Department of Defense, and various other agencies. And I couldn't tell anyone at the time, including the band. Then the Wall Street Journal and some other large news organizations reported a story that some rock star was having video conference calls with senior military and defense contractor officials. And I don't think people really knew what to make of it at the time, but the major news publications definitely started taking notice. Even they didn't know how I had that kind of access. And over that time period, the story of the millennia, as we call it, sat quietly in my head. I started to tell it in the book Secret Machines. Back then, I was even visited by a man in a certain agency. The conversation put me in my place fast. It was the first time I really digested the enormity of the national security implications of the UFO subject. His words were, and I remember this sitting in the small room, when your book came out, there were calls coming in from everywhere. You know things you shouldn't know, and I need to know who the hell you are. And 2 days later, I believe he realized the same thing that all the generals did that I was meeting with. I was respectful, humbled by the opportunity. I did everything I said I was going to do, and I was also an advocate for men and women in uniform. Now, back to that Wall Street Journal article. That article lured some very important people out of the shadows. principal players with the highest credentials and resumes. A strategy was developed that I really think can achieve the impossible. You must first understand that the Department of Defense has a culture of secrecy, not out of disdain or distrust for its citizens, but because it's appropriate to protect the lives of its people, technologies, and methods, like my own brother who spent a career in the Special Forces. It's not in their job description to help you and me understand the universe, past events, or why certain actions were taken on the UFO phenomenon 70 plus years ago. They were too busy actually dealing with it. So this brings us to today. I've worked for 2 years to construct a mechanism that I feel was missing. One that can take the biggest secret and the most controversial secret on Earth and surround it with 3 groundbreaking strategies that will innovate, educate, and hopefully wildly entertain at the same time. It's called To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. And we did this truthfully, as hard as it may be for you to really understand, to define a future and not be victim to one. And that was the service that I offered. And that's also why I received a ticket to meet some very invisible but also very important people. Now, if there's a subject that could potentially change the world, how would one approach it? Especially if the subject contained earth-changing technology, the need to understand a coming tidal wave of information, and what my partners and I call, again, the story of the millennia. Again, a technology, a need to learn more, and a hell of some stories to tell. Our institution looks to build a perpetual funding machine that can continuously attack those 3 things: aerospace, science, and entertainment. Again, some important stories to tell, a need to learn more, and a plan to engineer the technology observed. This is why I am here. This is why they are here. We're going to bring it to the world. And we're going to show you today how we aim to achieve this. We have a plan to bring the unimaginable, the stuff of dreams, to the world. To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science aims to communicate historic events and forward-thinking ideas through motion picture, and include you on ongoing scientific discovery, and build an exotic craft with an energy source that can revolutionize the world. And I would like you to help us push humanity over an invisible boundary that seems to confine us, forcing us to make the same mistakes over and over again. And now let me introduce you to our team. And how are we going to achieve this impossible thing? So first, my 2 co-founders. Jim Semivan, a career spy, former senior intelligence service in the CIA's Directorate of Operations, a strategist with the ability to help To the Stars Academy navigate all the many sensitivities involved, either with government or with others who may eventually want what we have. Dr. Puthoff is a theoretical physicist and program director for numerous CIA and Department of Defense classified programs. Dr. Puthoff is the creator of the CIA's own revolutionary psychic spy program, still used to this day, and his breakthrough science dealing with the engineering of space-time is crucial to potentially understanding the technology observed. Leading our aerospace division, Steve Justice, literally last month, Steve finished his career as Director of Advanced Systems at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. And to this day, Skunk Works is the U.S. government's top-tier aerospace organization for the development of advanced aircraft that meet our urgent national security needs. He will explain to you how this technology can revolutionize the world. Lou Elizondo literally finished his career at the Department of Defense as Senior Intelligence Officer in the Office of the Secretary of Defense days ago, and now he is on the stage with us. He served as Director for the National Program Special Management Staff. Forgive me, these titles are very long. And he is going to architect some partnerships with some very sensitive places to help protect us, to help protect the technology that we are going to be building, so we together can achieve the extraordinary. Chris Mellon, chairman of the To the Stars Academy National, Security Policy and Scientific Advisory Board, has a long career at the DoD as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence and Minority Staff Director of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Chris actually was involved in reviewing many of our nation's most sensitive activities over the course of his career. I actually met him on a cold call one day, and he turned out to be an incredible strategist, our main conduit to Washington, D.C., and a very cherished friend. Be sure to share this broadcast, because everyone's going to want to hear what he has to say. Chris?
Thanks very much. I'm thrilled to be here and to be part of this team. I will start by providing a rationale for combining science and entertainment in a single company. What is the underlying unity of these distinct activities? There are two primary methods we use to learn about and understand the world. The first is through stories, and the second is rational inquiry. There's nothing more ubiquitous among humans than storytelling. We require stories to recount our experiences, convey information, and better understand the world. We've adapted our storytelling to new technologies, but the vital function of storytelling remains the same. Rational inquiry, or the scientific method, is the other principal means we use to make sense of the world. But storytelling and rational inquiry must work hand in hand for the benefit of society, much as the right and left hemispheres of our brain work together, one analytical and the other intuitive and holistic. Albert Einstein identified the underlying unity of art and science when he said, quote, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious, is the source of all true art and science." Now let me discuss the urgency we feel at To the Stars Academy in connection with our dual mission. Precisely 60 years ago this month, the former Soviet Union proudly announced its success in placing the first man-made satellite in orbit. The news fomented intense anxiety in the context of the Cold War, but America was energized and enthusiastically entered an era known as the space race. Space exploration seized the public's imagination, and we elected to reach for the moon. Sputnik was an unwelcome shot across the bow, but it sparked a boom in science and engineering, and enrollment in science and engineering courses surged. At the same time, the public devoured fiction and nonfiction books, TV shows, and movies on space exploration, using those mediums to process the ramifications of the space age. Now, imagine for a moment that Sputnik had remained a secret, known only to the Soviet Union and perhaps a small group at CIA. There would have been no public outcry or debate. This great boost to space exploration would not have occurred if the public had remained ignorant of Sputnik due to excessive secrecy. It will undoubtedly surprise the public to learn that we find ourselves once again in a race for technological innovation. Permit me to tell you a story in the hope of making this clear. We are presently standing within 10 miles of the home port of the USS Nimitz, a $5 billion warship with a crew of thousands. It is one of the premier assets in the U.S. Navy. Envision the Nimitz operating off the coast of San Diego on a brilliant sunny day, escorted by the USS Princeton, an Aegis-class cruiser that protects carrier battle groups by employing the most sophisticated naval air defense system in the world. Imagine these ships engaging in a routine training exercise when an unidentified aircraft with a small radar cross-section appears on the Princeton's radar, heading directly towards the battle group. The aircraft has no transponder, does not respond to radio calls. The Princeton hurriedly contacts two F-18s already aloft to intercept the target. As the two F-18s approach, the four aviators see that the object has no wings or exhaust. It is white, oblong, some 40 feet long and perhaps 12 feet thick. One pilot pursues the craft while his wingman stays high. The pilots are astonished to see the object suddenly reorient itself toward the approaching F-18. In a series of discrete tumbling maneuvers that seem to defy the laws of physics, the object takes a position directly behind the approaching F-18. The pilots capture gun camera footage and infrared imagery of the object, but are outmatched by a technology they've never seen. Fearful for their safety and running low on fuel, both F-18s returned to the Nimitz. Yet the strange object remains in the vicinity of the Nimitz for hours, monitored by the USS Princeton and radar aboard a Navy E-2 Hawkeye aircraft. At one point, the object soars to 80,000 feet, hovers, then drops at supersonic speeds, coming to a full stop a mere 50 feet above the ocean, where it resumes hovering. More F-18s are dispatched, but with similar results. As before, the engagement occurs in broad daylight, and the secret machine easily evades the F-18s. Dozens of military personnel aboard the various planes and ships involved are privy to these interactions. Bear in mind that naval aviators are the finest observers possible. All have top secret clearances, all are drug tested, are ardent patriots, have excellent vision, and understand aeronautics and aviation. Clearly, this is not an experimental U.S. aircraft. But whose is it? How did it accomplish these feats? This story may sound like a sci-fi movie, but it is a true story, and far from being the only one of its kind. I've met with one of the pilots and confirmed the account, as have other members of the To the Stars Academy team. But the real beauty of this story is that you don't have to take my word for it, or even that of the Navy officer who described these events in an article you can find on the web by searching on Nimitz UFOs 2004, There I Was. Better yet, the U.S. government itself can verify the events involving the USS Nimitz on November 14, 2004. So the key to revealing whether or not there are advanced vehicles with capabilities far beyond anything made in America is now in the hands of the press and the public. The chairman of the Armed Services Committee and his counterparts on other congressional oversight committees can easily request a briefing to confirm the veracity of this story and the existence of other events of a similar nature. Congress has every right to review the documents generated by this event and request briefings by the military personnel involved. If the oversight committees have not already been briefed on this event and others like it, they clearly should be. How else can they adequately assess threats to our forces and our military requirements? There is nothing to prove here. These are just facts that need to be properly evaluated. Without the facts, neither Congress nor our democracy can function effectively. Once the truth is known, some anxieties will certainly be raised, but imaginations will also be fired. A renewed interest in space and science will inevitably result, and our government and society will respond. But we can only rise to the challenge once the public becomes aware a problem exists. Casting our eyes skyward again, To the Stars is a constructive and unifying proposition for mankind at a time of growing disarray. We are a corporation with a public purpose, and we are all about combining the light of reason and passion of art to stimulate new thinking and discoveries. To the Stars Academy provides an opportunity to embark on an unprecedented journey of storytelling, exploration, and innovation. This is more than a commercial venture. It is an intellectual adventure. We hope you all will join us. Thank you.
For those of you who are just joining us from around the world, I want to welcome you. Today we're announcing To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, a company dedicated to pushing the outer edges of science and the understanding of aerial phenomena. I want to take a second here. Months ago, I had some very important people from inside the government talking about somebody that one day I would possibly be able to meet. And I remember the words were, you can't know his name, but if you were ever to know his name, you would have to keep that to yourself till the day you die. And then I remember there was a big breakthrough where we started referring to this guy by the letter L. Days ago, this person finished his career at the Department of Defense as one of the senior covert intelligence officers in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. I think you need to really listen carefully to what he says. And I still, even working our way up to today, I get the chills when you say it. So I want you to all meet Lou Elizondo.
Well, thanks, Tom, for that very special introduction. My name is Lou Elizondo, and as a career intelligence officer, I am accustomed to being involved in close-hold, nuanced programs involving national security. This includes being a counterintelligence special agent, a case officer, and an intelligence practitioner. However, by far the most interesting effort I was involved with was the topic of advanced aerial threats. For nearly the last decade, I ran a sensitive aerospace threat identification program focusing on unidentified aerial technologies. It was in this position I learned that the phenomena is indeed real. And now, as a member of To the Stars Academy, we will bring our observations to you. For starters, To the Stars Academy is planning exciting new tools and capabilities that allow you and others to effectively take part of what we're doing. We will allow you to detect, analyze, categorize, and yes, even engineer technologies that have remained elusive until now. One of the many ways we seek to accomplish this is through a community of interest, a virtual environment of sorts. This virtual environment provides a platform for the detection and triangulation of phenomena events in real time and allows two-way communication between the public and our team regarding this information. My job will be to work as a liaison and an interlocutor in the collection of this information for the Science Division, allowing us to collect facts for analysis. We are also planning to provide never-before-released footage from real U.S. government systems, not blurry amateur photos, but real data and real videos. And we're inviting our government colleagues and friends in defense to participate regularly with their own findings. Another To the Stars Academy objective is the development of an app that allows you to help us, quote-unquote, crowd crunch the data. Anyone with a cell phone could be alerted to an event occurring in their area, in essence, making them a virtual contributor with millions of people documenting events as they actually happen, allowing us to cross over a new threshold of understanding. To the Stars Academy is on the verge of bringing all of us across that threshold together. And I'm excited, frankly, like hell, to be part of this effort with you. Thank you sincerely for your time. Tom, over to you.
If you just joined us again, welcome to the live announcement of To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. You need to share this for us, and you'll find out why as we go along here. I'm about to bring out one of the most accomplished aerospace engineers in the planet. First time I met Steve Justice, I went through, I got the opportunity to go up to Lockheed Martin's the Skunk Works. And I remember I went through this guard gate and they had machine guns. And then first I had to do my fingerprints and all that kind of stuff. And then I got to go through the machine guns. And then I go through this door that's locked up with security inside, another door with electronic codes and more security. I get into a hallway and there's like hundreds of speakers lining this long hallway with just white noise, just static playing to drown out everyone's conversations. And then there were more doors that were as thick as a safe with these rotary locks. And you go in there, there's no windows, a very few people, and it's the elite of the elite aerospace engineers that are building the stuff that comes out that frankly most people think are UFOs in the sky when they see them. I am a kid in a candy store to share the stage with somebody that works on the coolest stuff in the world. I would like to introduce you to the head of our aerospace division, Steve Justice.
Thank you, Tom. When Tom came to visit my office, I wanted to talk about rock music. He wanted to talk about airplanes, and so we had to kind of come to a meeting of the minds there about what the discussion was going to be like. I want you to play back in your heads for just a minute what you heard from Chris and Lou. And I want you to think about these real people that are involved in this, how they've been impacted by what they've seen, the witnesses that Chris talked about, Lou himself, And I want you to ask yourself, how can I say this is not real? Okay? To me, this makes it real. And that means it can be done. It means it can be done. So if it can be done, let's trust their position. Okay? And one of the things I want to do is figure out what those technologies are in this observed vehicle, and I want to build that. I want to build something that absolutely stimulates the imagination. And To the Stars Academy is structured to do just that. The science division of the Academy is designed to go out and collect the information, connect the dots inside there. Now we're going to be collecting from sources all over the place, as you heard Lou say, trying to connect the dots in there in ways that we've never been able to do that before. And the community of interest that Lou referred to is going to be critical for that. And then we want to try to understand exactly what it means. The aerospace division is going to harvest technologies and understanding from the science division. Try to go through and demonstrate the technologies, build prototypes, and even production systems that can change life as we know it. And then finally, there's the entertainment division that Tom talked about, where you will walk this journey with us. You will participate with us, and we'll inform everyone along the way. We'll provide education, and hopefully inspire you to think about the future in a very, very, very different way. When it comes to shaping the future, one of the greatest obstacles you have is your mind. The best example of this that I can give you is an article that I read. When I was in college, I saved this magazine. It was U.S. Air Force magazine. It had an article about flying the U-2. And I was recently cleaning out my files, and so I thought, what else was going on in 1976? So I was looking through it, and there was this article about this magical new system called GPS. And someday, if the United States really focused on electronic miniaturization, a soldier would be able to wear a backpack that weighed 10 pounds and cost $10,000. It would tell him where he is on the face of the earth. Now, we laugh at that today because we have something that does that fits in our hip pocket, that costs a couple of $100, but it's also a camera. Oh, and by the way, that GPS system can also tell you where to go with verbal instructions if you're lost. But it's a camera, it's a telephone, and it can connect you with information worldwide. Now, if this author had written that down in 1976, he would not have been allowed to print it. He would have been laughed out of the room. And yet here we are standing here laughing about it, okay? But what we're doing is we're standing in his future looking back. He was standing in his present looking to the future. And so the whole trick to this is releasing those boundaries that are inside your head to stand inside the future. And if you don't think that you're susceptible to these artificial boundaries, take this exercise with me. If I ask you to name different kinds of ships and you thought of aircraft carrier, ocean liner, rowboat, or destroyer, you're an incredibly well-educated adult. Give yourself an F. If you thought of an airship or a spaceship, give yourself a C. I didn't ask you to name things that float on water. I asked you to name different kinds of ships. And if you thought of friendship, ownership, or relationship, give yourself an A. But see how easily our mind will sit there and add rules that are not in place. And the whole key to the future is reaching out, not placing rules in place that are there, okay? And then taking that chance. And in all likelihood, if somebody is laughing at what you say, you're standing in the future and looking back. But we have these glimpses of technology now that tell us maybe there's a way to go do that. We need to evolve those analyses and realize those technologies for the future. So an example of what we may be able to do, the application of this. Today, there's a generation of people that are not buying cars. They're using on-demand, point-to-point transportation within cities. Why have a car? Imagine if that was international. Okay? You could go anywhere on the face of the earth in a matter of minutes. And so now you've removed that parameter of distance and time that separates us from friends on the other side of the earth. Putting it in a context, if we had this technology today, imagine how quickly we could get supplies where they're needed for natural disasters, delivering directly to neighborhoods as opposed to having to send them on ships and trucks through this chain of this supply chain to get it to the points where it's actually needed. If you don't think a technology like this can change the future, I want you to imagine this. 15 years ago, well, you don't have to imagine it. 15 years ago, you didn't even know you needed a smartphone, and now you can't live without it. The technology that we're talking about is going to enable a future that is difficult, if not impossible, to comprehend today. We're setting the stage. To the Stars Academy is setting the stage for this future, okay? And defining a future that's very difficult for us to comprehend. This quote that you see up on the screen right now with the patent office, where the head of the patent office in this report says that we're coming upon the arrival of a period when human improvement must end. How dare we artificially limit our future? How dare we do that? There's going to be a bunch of people that are going to give us all the reasons something cannot be done. We're going to be told this can't be done. We're going to have to expect to hit obstacles, both real as well as created, but we believe in this quest, absolutely. And we must make sure that we're not distracted by those that are living with invisible boundaries. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you join us on this journey.
So for all the people out there that are trying to absorb everything that we're doing, we put together a video that kind of summarizes it all together in just a few minutes. I'm hoping that this will kind of be the calling card to learn more about what is actually happening here. So right now we would like to play you a video, and I hope you find it to be emotionally intriguing as I found it while we were making it.
Have you ever had the desire to look outward, to the edge of what is known and unknown? We have the chance to do something revolutionary, something that I think has never been attempted before. What if I told you I found a group of like-minded people who held senior positions in the US government, from the CIA to the Department of Defense to the most advanced aerospace engineering groups within our national security establishment. People who have life skills in collecting and decoding elusive information. And they all wanted to do something ambitious, something that could help change the conversation about who we are through an unparalleled search for answers that can propel humanity forward. Today we are presenting you with To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, a public benefit corporation, the first transparent partnership of its kind between the fields of aerospace engineering, science, and cinematic entertainment, a collaboration with global citizens to explore the outer edges of conventional thinking, targeting the mysteries of the universe and using them to help unify mankind.
Humanity is clustered around a campfire, surrounded by the shadows of an infinite and cold universe. Tom and the others involved with this enterprise want to take torches, stick them in the fire, go on adventures into those shadows to explore those boundary areas and reveal what's there.
What if scientists were given resources to investigate the boundaries of traditional theory? We could finally pull together a unified study from religious scholars, archaeologists, quantum theorists, physicists, and even the most advanced aerospace engineers on the planet.
The truth of the matter is, we now know in our physics, which has been advancing, that something like warp drive is not out of the question.
To the Stars represents an opportunity to reach beyond the normal boundaries of aerospace, to create products that you can call them revolutionary, and that's too mild of a word.
I'm very excited about this. I think it's an opportunity for us to take certain topics, whether that's unidentified aerial phenomena or ESP or telepathy, and really get to the bottom of it.
Starting as a kid, I've always been interested in the actual forefront of physics, right at the edge. These days, standard mainstream physics is really outstripping science fiction.
I was in charge of the advanced aerospace threat that deals with highly sophisticated, unidentified phenomena. In the last 10 years, we've come a long way in our understanding of our place here in this universe. There are physics that we don't quite yet understand. Doesn't mean that they're not real, it just simply means that we don't have the capacity yet to understand those physics.
I think we're all frustrated by the fact that our government and conventional science neglects some of the most interesting and provocative and potentially important issues out there.
One of the things that we must do is challenge ourselves to stand in the future and look back to the present. That's the key to breakthroughs. That's the key to changing life as we know it.
I think it's in our nature to go out and explore and report back what we see. The fact is, we might not necessarily be alone.
These things are real. These things are out there. They've been out there for a long time. They are not the provenance of the government or any government in the world. They belong to us. These are things that happen to people all the time, and these are things that we need to explore. And we need finally to get together to figure out what this is all about.
Using state-of-the-art technology, our own advanced research and development programs, and unique storytelling experiences, our goal is to introduce these unconventional subjects and their potential to affect the world positively through a model that innovates, educates, and entertains, to present a positive and unifying message to all generations in every country and every belief system that the growth of consciousness that we all desire can start here, right now.
And I truly believe now is a time for us to move forward and finally begin to answer some of life's most deepest mysteries.
We can either crawl forward, or we can take that viewpoint and say, okay, let's leap forward. Let's try to get the 25th century science this century.
This is the time that we are inviting you, the public, to help build a paradigm-shifting global movement and to own it with us. Together, we can create a vehicle that pushes us forward, where we can hopefully learn that we are much more special and much more connected to each other than we could ever imagine. We are To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, a public benefit corporation. We're living in an age where a new universal view of ourselves is possible, and revolutionary technology is finally within our reach if we just have the courage to grasp it. And whether it's trying to launch satellites into space with lasers, which we are aiming to do, or making major motion pictures that spark the imagination of generations to come, the rule must be the same. No one person, one government, or one hidden institution should own this information and technology unto themselves. And we must relentlessly pursue access to the information that will shape our future. Look very closely at these people and who they are, and take notice of where they come from, and think about the realities of what this team has the ability to accomplish and deliver if we're fully equipped. And be a part of making history and join us at the start. We cannot wait and depend on others to do it for us. And you have the ability to take ownership from day one and keep all this in the public's hands. And that is my goal here. You can join us and own a piece of this, because that's what it's going to take for this to happen. And you have to visit tothestarsacademy.com and click on the Invest button, and you will learn about the Regulation A equity crowdfunding. And this process removes the middleman and democratizes access to equity ownership. Go to tothestarsacademy.com. You can read the offering circular. You can see the business plan. You can see the investment opportunities and all the risks involved investing in this type of a venture. But this may be the only time in history you will ever see one of the biggest aerospace engineers in the world, a senior intelligence officer from the CIA, 2 former senior Pentagon officials, and an experimental physicist from the DoD take a giant leap of faith to tell you something. And I ask that you listen very carefully. These guys really went out on a limb here. And the only way to do this is if we do it in the public realm. And the only way to bring it out to you is if you help us. We're offering you the opportunity to be on the ground floor of building the future. And this is only the beginning. There is so much more coming. We're making history, and I'm inviting you to be wonderfully surprised at what we got in store. Thank you so much.